Hey everybody, welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted the lives of the people in my network, leaders throughout that network. I want to get to those great leads that will provide the names of books, the books that have impacted their lives, their work, their businesses, whatever it may be. And the three categories of books that I cover in the series are a book that they're sharing with me that I haven't read myself, a book that we've both read and we're sharing and discussing whether we read it specifically for that series or read it before the series even started. And then the third category, is when I have the author and or publisher of the book on to talk about the book itself, to give it a face, to give it a story, to give it a name, a tone, just to personalize that touch and share that with the masses. And my guest today is Jennifer Jane Young. And Jenn is an intuitive leadership coach and business consultant to entrepreneurs and business leaders around the world. She's an international speaker and author of Say Yes to Your Yes, How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap. Since 2011, Jenn's leadership roles have spanned several continents, from leading a community of 5,000 entrepreneurs for the International Trade Center as a United Nations consultant to advising startups and multi-million-dollar businesses. Throughout her workshops, talks, and her signature podcast, Finding Your Flow, Jenn has helped global entrepreneurs and leaders change the paradigm in how they lead their businesses, transforming lives in the process. Jenn, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, John. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time. I'm curious about that last sentence that I read, transforming lives in the process. But I think in getting to know you in the next couple minutes and in the next half hour, we'll get to where that comes from, because I'm always curious about where somebody in business, when they mention something like that, where it comes from. So I'm excited to jump in. Now, the first question I always ask is, Jenn, who are you today? So I read your bio, but in the day-to-day, what does your work look like with your clients? If you can just break down how it might look, what the different services are that you offer your clients and the people you work with.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Yeah.
My work is very varied because that's just how I roll in life, and that is a part of me saying yes to my yes, which is not, focusing in on just one thing, because I have a passion around business, entrepreneurship, personal growth, and leadership. And so all of those things, and I fold in spirituality in there. So all of those things are part of my work on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes it looks like coaching, really around the personal growth side of things for someone who wants to experience some personal transformation, really like that from the inside out kind of transformation. And I also do strategic business consulting. Sometimes I'm stepping into an organization to help with the business development, the team management, the team leadership, and that's where kind of the leadership folds in as well. And yeah, just doing kind of a lot of things around the book as well. When a book comes out into the world, it's just like there's a whole ecosystem that builds around it.
I've heard.
It's quite a thing. It's like birthing a baby. You have to take care of all these things around it after.
Yeah, I've heard so many people say they put so much work into the book, and sometimes naively they were thinking that was it once they got the book out there, but then they realized the hard work really started after that, getting that book out there, getting that message out there, everything that comes with marketing and publicity and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just nurturing the beautiful relationships that come with a book going out into the world. And, I'm receiving so many messages like weekly from people who are experiencing their transformation from reading the book. And so it's really beautiful. And I guess I would say the common thread in all of the work that I do is leadership, whether it's personal leadership or business leadership. But the work is around helping people really connect to that wisdom inside of themselves that will lead their lives or their businesses in a way that is going to feel good and aligned and exciting and expansive. So that's really what comes into anything that I do, whatever offer I have on the table in the moment.
So to understand how you ended up here doing this work, can you give me a walkthrough? I usually ask people to start around high school or when they went into the workforce or college, whatever it may be. I'm curious what that path looked like to today, to the person that's sitting in front of us, that's going to share their book with us. What does that path look like?
Yeah, very messy. It was a very messy path.
I like messy, though. I like messy.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it all started. That's where the magic really was happening, which I see now more than I did then. But for me, high school was a disaster. It was failing classes, it was skipping school, it was ending up in the principal's office, it was being kicked out of class, it was all that stuff because I just didn't fit into that system. And so, it was really hard to thrive and have success in.
What was it about you that didn't fit into that system, Jen?
I think it was the way in which they wanted us to think, which was very linear, very limited, and with a lot of rules. And I felt so suffocated in that system. And that layered with, we all have trauma and stuff we've gone through in our lives. And, it was just all of that together was made for a very messy and confusing and scary experience. And that is what led me into the world of personal growth, and it started through yoga. I started doing yoga and developing a more spiritual practice and really connecting to myself and understanding who I was and how I functioned in the world, what brought me joy, what made me feel good.
So was this during high school or after?
This was during high school.
Okay.
And then going into like college.
What brought yoga to your attention? What put that in your periphery?
My mom's best friend, who was gifted the task of, please do something with Jen. I don't know what to do with her anymore.
There's always that family friend or relative. It's like, okay, somebody parents trust, and it's like, okay, you got to help me because it's just something about not listening to your parents.
Yeah, and she's an artist, and she was very much like me, and so my mom knew that I would connect with her on that level, and it really is such a full circle moment. I've started teaching yoga again recently, and she now comes to my classes, which is so beautiful. So yeah, yoga became like a first vehicle that led me in a direction that was like, oh, this world feels good to me. This world makes sense to me. And then I continued to do all the things that I was told I should do, go to college, get a degree in all these things. And I did better than in high school, but it was still challenging.
What'd you go to college for?
I started in interior design, which felt like the perfect space for me because it was creative and artistic, but talk about an industry with rules and rigidity and competition. And it just was not a space for me at all. And then I went into early childhood education. I actually finished that degree, which was a huge success. And I was called to that because I was called to teaching. Essentially, at the end of the day, I feel like I'm a teacher in a lot of the work that I'm doing. But again, traditional role, traditional system, I just was like, my soul was like screaming to be unleashed. And I took my summer vacation to go do a yoga teacher training, and I took the leap to leave my traditional career and became a yoga teacher, which then led me to falling in love with business, which then led me to becoming a business coach, and then just all of it building up to where I am today. And now I just bring it all together in my work.
So when you talk about falling in love with business, what was the aspect? Was it going for the training to be a yoga teacher and then building a business, and then from there just kind of enjoying and loving the business side of it?
It was the freedom to do what I wanted in the way that I wanted when I wanted. That's what I fell in love with. And to be able to the business side of it, all of it, the marketing, the networking, the connecting, it's such a vibrant industry, really, and it's unlimited in the potential that is available to us. Like it's a vehicle for creative expression, and that's really what I needed. And I had never had that before. So entrepreneurship became like the world in which I always knew I needed, but I didn't know existed because no one teaches you that at school, right?
Yeah. So then what does that look like? Is it just you're beginning with a yoga business, or how did you parlay into other businesses? What does that path look like?
Yeah, so I I started teaching yoga and I immediately was pulled to like, I need to build all the things to like tell people I have a little business. So I built my first website on my own. I started my social media stuff on my own. And I'm very much of a self-learner. So I just kind of built this little online ecosystem, and started to put my services and offers out into the world. And as much as I loved teaching yoga, what I realized that I was more passionate about the personal growth side of the work that I was doing when I was teaching yoga. So I actually became a yoga therapist, which was another training in and of itself. And that really confirmed, like, I want to work one-on-one with people. I want to get into their minds, into their hearts, into their nervous systems, and really help them move through the transformation, growth, and healing that they want. And so as that was happening, I was being pulled less and less onto teaching yoga on the mat, like the physical practice, and more to work really on the more psychological level with people and on my laptop. Like, all I wanted to do was just get back on my laptop and work on my website or do those things. And then, my yoga therapy teacher at the time, she just saw how passionate and how natural it was for me to run a business. And so she asked me to come in and help run the operations of her yoga therapy school. And then people started to talk, like Jenn, the yoga teacher who does really good in business. And people started to reach out to me for help with that work.
And then the foray into leadership coaching, how did that come about?
I think it really came
Was that the next leap? Was that the next kind of iteration or next evolution of your work, of your focus?
It was, because first people were coming to me like, hey, can you build a website for me? Can you help me figure out my social media? It was very like tactical, practical stuff. But what they were realizing is like the conversation that we were having around their business and the website was the really kind of supportive piece that they were getting from me. And when I started to see that, I was like, oh, okay, people don't just want me to build a website. They want my thought process. They want my input on their business. So it was all just such a very organic evolution. And all I did was just kind of follow the natural direction of my skill set that came to me very intuitively.
So high school, you get introduced to yoga, then you kind of find this creativity within you.
Yeah.
I'm assuming because of the open-mindedness of yoga, then you're diving into the business and creating business and just that thrill of creating something from nothing, right?
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from for you? Where did the yoga curiosity came from your mom's friend, but when it comes to, in thinking back, when it comes to this desire to create, this desire to build something from the bottom up, where do you think that comes from? Did you always have that in some capacity, even though it wasn't captured in high school?
I did. I think it's just innate. I think it's just something that came with me when I came into this world, because I remember at a very young age, I would get this vision of a thing I'd want to make. And then I'd go out and try to make it. Whether it was like a little cabin in the woods or an art piece, or it was all kinds of stuff, And so it's always been in me to get like a nudge and then a vision, and then like I need to make the thing. Without the making of the thing, there's like a huge piece missing for me.
Yeah. So then, in your words, I'm curious, how do you reconcile where you are now to who you were as a kid? I can guess just based on the themes that I hear, but I'm curious for you, in your words, how do you reconcile who you were as a kid to the work you're doing now?
I think the bridge for me between both was just like a permission to be who I am in my most natural state, right? So I guess the way I reconcile it is like I see the younger version of me just like stuck in this box, like in this sort of little prison that was not allowing me to be in my fullest expression. Whereas today, there's like, there are no walls, there is no box there. If ever there is, it's really just something I've created with my own mind. And so I just have no rules around like limitations for myself anymore. I I just trust, like, I feel the thing inside. I trust that.
Where did your parents fall in all this? What types were they? Were they creatives in some capacity? Were they the opposite? How do they factor into that equation? Out of my curiosity, if I'm digging too deep,
Yeah.
just let me know.
No, no, no. There's never too deep with me. I'm a Cancer. I like going deep. I think, I think both of my parents are creative in their own ways. I just think they didn't really have the opportunity to express that creativity. They in those days it's just you do the traditional thing. There's no other way, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So I think they lived a lot of their sort of dreams through me in a way. The role model that I had in my life as an entrepreneur was my grandfather on my mom's side. He was an entrepreneur. He was a creative. He was a musician. He built stuff. He made stuff. He was just like, he was really, when I got older and I got to really know him and his story in a deeper way, I finally was like, okay, here's someone similar to me, that I can look up to. And he did some incredible things and was extremely successful in his business and his career.
What did that look like when you realized that? Was there something he did, something he created, or something you saw that was like, oh, okay? Was it a particular instance or something he designed or built?
I think it was when I got older, my mom started to tell me more stories about my grandfather. And then I got
Gotcha.
really curious and started to ask him a lot more questions about his life. And I was really impressed with the things that he did. Like he built the first metro cart in Montreal. He built one of the first models of the skidoos. Like there was so many things. I was like, oh my God, how come I never knew this?
Hmm.
And I guess I saw part of myself in him because I was like, I often question, like, why do I need to make so much stuff all the time? Like, why do I get these visions and need to make things? And he was the same, really.
Yeah, just in having kids myself, you and your grandfather are obviously separated by a generation, but even just seeing little attributes, your kids may look like you, but just seeing little attributes, little quirks, little habits in your kids just makes you realize how powerful DNA is and how much really transfers through that DNA. It's incredible. So, and maybe your parents had the same, but like you said, just based on the times, based on the tradition, there wasn't space to be as creative as one wanted to be. But that's incredible that you could see that in his work, and now you have kind of like the source material, the source coding for who you are and can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Jen, what do you consider you've mentioned a lot of great attributes, but what would you consider your superpower? What is it? What is your one thing that you can do that no one can take away from you?
God, that's such a hard question. I've gone through this process, like this thought process for like 15 years. I think from what I'm hearing, what I've heard from people over the last 15 years of being an entrepreneur is just helping people be really seen and heard and understood in a deep, deep way like they haven't before. I think that comes with my intuitive side. I'm a highly sensitive empath. I feel people, I see people in very deep ways. And so when people come to me, whether I'm helping them with tech stuff, because I forgot to mention that I'm a total tech nerd and I do a lot of tech work, or I'm helping them with coaching, their personal life, their business, it actually doesn't really matter. It's more of the space that I hold for them to really fully be seen and understood, which is, I guess, what I so badly needed when I was young and what I was offered at some moments.
Yeah, what I was gonna ask is where did that empathy as an empath, where do you think that came from? You just kind of answered that, but what can you provide some additional thoughts where you picked that up, where it derived from in your life, being an
Yeah.
empath, being highly sensitive in that way?
I kind of feel like it's part of DNA also. Like I think that a lot of us in my family are highly sensitive people. And on the side of my mom, we're very highly intuitive beings, and so the empath side really comes out there. And yeah, I think it's a mix of things. I think it's a DNA. I think it's part of my astrology, like this being a Cancer, we're just extremely empathic, and my lived experience that allowed me to really open up in a way that helped me understand who I was and who other people are in their own experience.
The other part of my question I'm going to ask is, I've spoken to a lot of people on here that have mentioned that they're highly sensitive, that they're highly empathic, that it stems from their experience and in most cases who they felt they needed as a kid, right? We tend to gravitate towards providing in the end, not in the end, while we're
Yeah.
working in our careers,
Yeah.
gravitating towards what we felt we needed. It's incredible seeing that most people coming full circle like that. All that being said, when it comes to that high sensitivity, that strong empathy, that it's kind of natural, you're kind of just born into it. How do you balance it so you don't take too much on? What is your way of just kind of decompressing or your self-care? Because I don't know where you fall on that highly empathic spectrum, but I know some people, I've spoken to some people where they were very high. So
Yeah.
they really did need to force themselves to step away and focus on self-care, or else they would burn out. So I'm curious if you might think that way, if there are just exercises, if there are steps, or if there are just kind of realizations you have that it's time to take care of yourself, or if it's just a part of your everyday routine.
Yeah, I think, the way in which I learned to deal with it is by burning out, is kind of by crashing in a sense. And it took a long time for me to realize and understand that I was a highly sensitive empath. I didn't even know what that was, to be honest. When I heard the HSP the first time, I was like, what is that? I don't think that's me. And so I underestimated for a very long time my sensitivity and the extent to which I take things on from other people. So I'm pretty high up on the sensitive empathic scale, I would say. The way in which I know I'm overstimulated when I get really emotional and impatient, and like when I feel like I'm being kind of like attacked by the world. It is kind of how I would say that feels. And I need the only thing that I can think of as an example. I don't know if you've ever gone snorkeling.
Yeah.
That feeling when your head goes under the water and then everything just becomes so quiet around you, like you feel like you fall into like that bubble. That's what I need. I need to like turn inwards and go into this very quiet bubble. So that'll often look like being alone, being in my home, either with like no sound or a very intentionally selected piece of music that is calming for the nervous system. So anything that helps my nervous system relax, which is why I'm still so passionate about teaching about everything I learned in yoga, particularly around the nervous system and the brain and how it all connects and impacts us in our day.
When did you, was it, I don't know, a therapist or a doctor? Who was it that told you about that? When did you learn about that high sensitivity, that it was a thing? How
Yeah.
did you learn about that?
It was through a friend who
Okay.
was actually my intuitive mentor she's one of my best friends. Her name is Monica Kuroda, and she's amazing. And I feel like one day she was like, you're a highly sensitive empath, right? And I was like, what? What? Yeah, are you sure? And she was like, how did you not know this yet? So that's really how it came into my awareness. This was many years ago. And then it was just when I get an insight around something, I just go down the rabbit hole of researching and learning more and understanding more. I just recently read one of the best books that has been so supportive. It's called Sensitive. And so I just like to learn things in deeper layers so that I can better understand myself and how I can best function in the world.
Yeah, I've been told in the past that I was sensitive. And I'm just spitballing these ideas. I haven't refined this. I'm clumsy in my wording. But when you think of a guy saying sensitive, automatically people may think a guy crying and whatnot. But what I'm talking about is paying attention to what people say, the
Yeah.
words that they use. So I've been in conversations with people and I hear a certain word. I'm like, what did you mean by that?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no, you're just being sensitive. Sensitive, like in the traditionally said sensitive. Oh, you're being,
Yeah.
pardon the expressions, you're being weak or you're whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
it's just I pay attention to who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
Like words matter. Words are important. So the way you speak with your body language, your
Yeah.
vocal tone, like all of that registers with me. So because I'm listening to words, I can call out certain things and it kind of opens the door for how somebody may be feeling. But obviously, people are of varying sensitivities. And it's
Yeah.
just interesting when you do have people of varying sensitivities, the communication may fall apart or just not go through because we see things so differently. So it's just incredible to learn how you may function in that capacity and
Yeah.
what it really takes for you to get through to other people and vice versa.
100%. And I think we really need so much more education around sensitivity, like you said, because it's very misunderstood. It's like, someone answers you just in a slightly different tone than usual, and you're like, "Are you okay? What's going on? Is life falling apart?" Like what, And so we
Yeah.
feel that, we see that, and I think that comes back to when you asked me my superpower. It's my sensitivity. It's my capacity to just feel it all, see it all, understand it all really quickly. And it really is a superpower, being sensitive. And I think, God, this could be a podcast in and of itself, but I have a big passion around men's mental health. And I think particularly for men, this is extremely misunderstood and judged and criticized in big ways. Yeah, there's so much to say about that. So I'm happy you brought that up, just from like a male perspective, how you experience your sensitivity.
Yeah, I know you said this could be another podcast, but can you offer some insight, even just like a
Yeah.
30-second snippet? What are your thoughts on that? What's your take? What do you see? What are you hearing?
Yeah. So it's ironic because I've been in a lot of non-healthy, toxic relationships with men in my life, friendships, all kinds of things. Yet I have a very empathic perspective around these toxic experiences that I've had. And what I see is that there's a lot of support for women, which is great. We need the support, and I know historically women have been very shut down. And what I'm seeing is that there is a lot of shame around men. Like there's a lot of shaming men for their behaviors, which I see these behaviors just simply coming from things that are not healed, things that have been shut down in men because they just have never had the space to be like, hey, I'm sad, or hey, I'm scared, or hey, I'm whatever you're feeling. And so men I was just having a conversation with one of my male friends this morning around like men really have been taught to have this role of provider and savior and like holding it all, not showing the emotions, the sensitivity, the vulnerability. And then we wonder why like toxic behavior comes out of that after.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind
No,
of
I I really appreciate that. I had a similar conversation to what we're discussing right now a few episodes back. I forget who it might have been, but I obviously, as a guy, I appreciate when we find an ally in somebody that says something to that effect, what you just shared.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with, I've heard from women kind of like, oh, like, just as one example, not excusing anything at all, but even the Me Too movement is like all you guys got thrown in that same bucket. It's, politicians, all men get thrown in the same bucket. That because men were such a way for so long in history.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, there are so many resources out there for women or any kind of specialized, special interest group, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And what came up in that other conversation I had was I, as a man, don't want it to be a zero-sum game at all. In seeking the kind of conversation that you just brought up, that men that we want to have.
Yeah.
I don't want resources taken from anybody, but I think a lot of men may see if I say something that I need, if I state what my needs are, that somebody else will see it as. And sometimes that does come up. If a guy says in some way, shape, or form he needs help, or what about us?
Yeah.
There will be people that say this isn't about you, this isn't your time. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you indulging me in just your thoughts, but I also appreciate you being an ally just in kind of opening up that conversation for men and their mental health.
100%. I'm actually working with some filmmakers, hopefully soon, on potentially a documentary around this because I'm so passionate about it. Because I think whether it's the Me Too movement or whatever's happening, whoever has a toxic behavior out in the world, I think the issue is that we're not looking deeper. We're just looking at like the thing that happened. But where is this coming from? Like, why is this so,
like we're looking, we see, we witness the symptom and we attack the symptom, but we're not getting to the root cause.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, Jen, I appreciate that so much. I love when I never aim for it, but when a guest comes on and offers up that theme, that support, I really appreciate it because I know a lot of men, whether it's networking personally and to varying effects, they're all in that kind of same boat, taking on, and feeling that by societal standards, the pressures we put on ourselves, the perception of what a man is, and yada, yada, yada,
Yep.
we are kind of taking it all in. So I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
And then, Jen, the last question before we jump into your book, what does leadership mean to you? What does great leadership look like?
I think great leadership, I believe that most leaders in the world, the good leaders, or the conscious leaders, if I maybe to be more specific, are empathic. I really believe that good leaders are empathic because leadership is not actually about you, the leader. It's about how you're helping other people become leaders in the world. And so for me, leadership is paving the path for others, for more good in the world, for more healing in the world, for more evolution in the world, whatever it is that we need. It's being the one who goes to the front of the line and paves that path so that others can walk down that path also, and teaching others how to do that as well. It's like, like leading the way first, Sometimes I think it looks like taking risks for those who are not able to take risks, or speaking up for those who are not able to speak up. And leadership for me is very connected to intuition. I believe that each of us has intuition as a guide inside of us, and that each of our intuition is leading us down the path that is going to allow us to fulfill our purpose while we're here on this earth to do good in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, most of what you just shared is just another example showing that there is no threshold between the formal leadership you hold and who you are as a person.
No.
You know, there's no threshold, there's no wall, there's no campus, there's no buzzing in and out. It's
Yeah,
not like that show Severance where you're completely separated from who you are on the outside, which is a
right.
great show, by the way, if you haven't checked it out.
I haven't.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's on Apple TV. It's, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's crazy science fiction. It comes down to people when they get to work, they don't remember their lives on the outside. And when
Ooh,
they go home, they don't remember their lives on the inside.
wow.
So highly recommend it. But that's like leadership. Like this isn't like the 60s where people generalizing went into a factory, did the widgets, went home. You just kept doing that till the end of your life. Now work is much more complicated. People are much more educated. People are much more expressive. So there's more to it than just my role here and my management here. So I appreciate just you bringing that sense of humanity to that definition of leadership. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing to that,
Sure.
because what you're saying is really interesting. I think I don't know if this is a word, but glamorize leadership too much. And I think we often associate leadership with like successful people only or famous people only or yeah.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that are incredible leaders in the world that are not influencers or people on TV or like the most successful people. So I think we have to remember that leadership starts like literally in our homes
Oh,
and
yeah.
for anybody.
Absolutely. So one of those things I preach, you don't need a formal title. The
No.
day you start at a company, your leadership is on display. It can be your work ethic, it can be the tone of your voice, it can be
Yeah.
the way that you ask questions, like all of this little stuff
Yeah.
is your leadership. It's not just I think they tend to think of a management role being in charge, but it goes beyond that. So
Yeah.
great points, great points. Now, let's jump into your book. If you could, I mentioned it before, if you want to mention the title again and how this book came to be.
Yeah. It's called Say Yes to Your Yes, How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap. And there is a brain on the book because I am very passionate about physiology and how that impacts how we move through the world. The book really, it's interesting. It took like 10 years to write this book, and it really is a compilation of my own experience, my own journey of saying yes to my yes, what that looked like, my own experience learning to discover my intuition, how it works, how it speaks to me, and all the things it made me do from up until now. I'm 42, and what it looks like to trust your intuition, and kind of breaking down also the ideas that we have maybe around intuition, that intuition is very woo, or that it's reckless, and so it's part kind of prescriptive. It's like a prescriptive memoir. It's very inspirational. It's very actionable. Like the goal is to inspire people into action. It's like go do the thing. Let's see where your intuition brings you if you actually trust it. And so I share a lot of personal stories. I share a lot of teaching around what intuition is, how it shows up in our physical human experience in these bodies, and yeah,
How,
it's
when you say it took 10 years to write, put simply, does it mean you said to yourself, I'm going to write a book? And then you were kind of taking notes here and there and adding notes and stories to it. And then between writing it on and off, it took 10 years? Or, did you get to a certain point and look back at your life and collect stories from that point on? And then it was more of a look back? What does that mean, 10 years?
yeah, it was on and off. It was like the initial start of it was I was taking a walk. It was fall. This thing happened out in nature that was just kind of blew me away. I got this huge insight. It's like I saw life in a way that was, I just, there was a light bulb moment, and I was like, I need to write about how I see life, how I understand life, and my experience up to now. And I literally ran home, opened my laptop, and just started a document. And that was like the book evolved with me. Therefore, I rewrote the book like 3 or 4 times because, like, the last times I edited the book, when I was reading my first versions, I was like, ew, this needs some updating. So it was just like a very slow journey of like connecting to the book, putting it aside for 6 months, connecting back to it. And that's why it took so long. My next
Yeah.
book I'm writing right now, it's going to be a very different process. But it needed to mature. It wasn't ready to go out into the world.
Now, before I want to dive into the book, just kind of an overview of the journey you take the reader on. But even before that, the title, what does that mean to you? And what are the instances in your life that portray that title? Like, where does that come from, that the title of the book itself?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from the realizations around all of the times that I did not say yes to my yes, that I ignored that voice, that I ignored those nudges, and
Now, and
yeah,
for us that don't know, you're just saying say yes to your intuition, to what's
yes,
calling you? Okay. Okay.
exactly. Your yes is your inner wisdom, your intuition, that wise guidance that we all have inside. It's like our inner compass, right? Our yes is like, a compass always, like, we always want to go north.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like our north, and so that's
Okay.
that's our yes, and we can talk about it as like a full body yes. You hear that a lot in the intuitive world. It's just like your whole body is like, just go do the thing, versus your head might be saying, yeah, but what if you do this? You're going to fail. You're going to all
Yeah.
the conditioning, right?
Yeah.
So it's just about trusting your intuition and saying yes to the invitation. I see it always as an invitation. Your intuition is inviting you to take a step forward in this direction. And the book talks a lot about how really life is not a linear journey. We're taught that it is, and it's not. And that's why it's very scary to follow our intuition, because it's not going to bring us down a linear, logical path.
Yeah. And then in the book, how is it that you, especially after a 10-year period, going back to it, leaving it, rewriting, in the end, how did you craft the path, the journey that you take the reader on? So, are there sections to the book and then chapters within that, or just chapters? If it's just chapters, how did you set it up for the reader to kind of agree with and see your conclusion of the way that they said they should say yes to their yes?
Yeah. It's chapters. There's no sections. It's just chapters. And now that you're asking me, it happened in a very intuitive way, the flow in which I created the flow of the book. But I think I set it up in a way that brings people through like the actual process of what happens internally when we get an intuitive nudge, and then how it feels in our body, what goes on in our head, what are the objections we come up against. And so there's like a chapter of like, when you say yes to your yes, what happens? When you say no to like when you don't say yes to your yes, what happens? There's it's very like it's a very balanced blend between inspirational, educational, and actionable. So it's kind of like, I guess in a way, how I would coach someone through this process. I talk about vulnerability. I do talk about woo stuff. We go from like very woo magical things and some very woo stories that I experienced to very practical, concrete, actionable things.
We've discussed woo on this podcast before.
Yeah.
What can you provide some examples of this woo stuff?
Yeah, I mean, woo for me, it's a world that I love, obviously. I have my office is packed with tarot cards and oracle cards, and that becomes very much part of my work with clients that do love that and are a part of that. But for me, woo is it's just our spiritual connection. It's our connection to something's just so much bigger than us. And I think we call it woo. They gave it this funny name because it's something we can't actually explain in a scientific way. But for me, it looks like magical things that happen in my life when I release control and get out of my head and just trust where I'm being guided. It's things happen for me that are so much bigger and so much better than what my limited brain could have imagined. And that's what I like to call magic, really.
Yeah. Is there a particular part of the book that jumps out to people that you find people mentioning or gravitating towards?
I think people write to me often to tell me, like, oh my God, I feel this all the time too, but I've never been able to put words to it, or I've never had the courage to like verbalize this before. And what people relate to a lot, most of the time, is the mental stuff that goes on in their head. All of these objections, all of this fear that goes on, and what stops them from doing the thing. That's what I find people connect to the most.
Jen, I'm always curious in writing this, what changed in you? Meaning you can go in, you know all the material, whether you've written it, rewritten it, turned it upside down. By the time you get it out the door, you've lived it, you've taught it, whatever it may be, whatever that's in those pages. But in the process of writing this book, what changed in you? Were there any shifts in the way you thought about things because of the process of working and reworking this book?
Yeah, I think I really learned in a deeper way to surrender and let go, and just not have to control every single part of my life or when this book was going out. Like what I the learning that was anchored in is like you can try to control everything, but it's at the end of the day you just don't have that level of control over life, you know? And the more we can relax into our experiences and surrender, like we show up, we do our part, but it's not all up to us. And so I really learned, and I'm still learning surrender in a lot of ways. And this book is often a mirror to me, you know, like my close friends, you know, sometimes if I'm stuck or I'm struggling, and they'll be like, so interesting that you're not saying yes to your yes, you
Yeah.
know? So
I
it's,
mean, that's like everything else with coaches.
yeah,
Just because you're a coach of some sort doesn't mean you have it all figured out at any given time.
no,
Doesn't mean you don't need a sounding board yourself. It just means, you tend to be more curious. I think as coaches, we tend to be more curious than most, but it's always a learning process. We
yeah.
always fall back into our same habits, but it's just that kind of recollection of, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this. Just that curiosity to move forward. But I mean, coaches need coaches, therapists need therapists. But it is funny. I've heard that so often of guests when they've written a book and their friends are like, hey, that's in your book, chapter such and such. And on.
Yeah.
Jen, what lessons do you hope that others can take away from this book? What does that look like on the ground? Can you give some examples of what people have changed about themselves? Not naming names, not getting personal, but what has that looked like when you've pointed certain things out, or they've read the book and realized little changes that they can make? Can you, if possible, can you give some examples of what that looks like?
Absolutely. I think in general, what it always looks like is people just learning to trust themselves and coming to this realization that they know what they're doing so much more than they think that they know that they're doing, and trusting the guidance that they're receiving. It's looked like I have a client who was a professor in university, and she had a very traditional, stable job that was slowly killing her inside, that was slowly, and like her health was started to be impacted, and she knew inside that there was this other thing that she wanted to do. And um and actually we worked together through her illness, um to transition her out of a life that was slowly, um I don't want to say killing her, but like I'm talking about more on like a spiritual, energetic level,
Yeah. Yeah. Understood.
which came, like, there was physical symptoms, to now she's this like thriving coach who's like healed so many of the things that were happening in her life, and now just living a life that feels so much bigger and more relaxed and more aligned for her. That's one like specific story. I've worked with people that have gone through that transformation that looks very different, but it always ends up looking like, wow, life felt so small and so limited. And now all of a sudden, I just feel like anything is possible, you
Mm.
know? And I don't believe that we're meant to live these really limited lives. So sometimes it looks like a very personal transformation and a personal life. I have a reader that messaged me lately, and she was like, because after reading your book at 50 years old, I finally, for the first time in my life, got on a plane and took my dream trip to Jamaica, you know? And it's just like we need to live our lives fully. And I guess to tie this up, this week I was on Instagram, and a reel came through my feed by Eddie Murphy. And it was this beautiful inspirational video where he was talking about, like, if we're lucky, that's only if we're lucky, we get 75 summers, we get 75 birthdays, we get 75 this, and all the things that we get if we're lucky to be here for 75 years, which is kind of like, I guess, the
Average.
average lifespan. And when you think about that, you're like, I need to be living those 75 summers, those 75 birthdays, those 75 whatever it is,
Yeah.
fully. So
It
yeah,
goes by quick.
it
It
does.
goes by so quick. It sounds cliche. It sounds like common sense. I've been thinking about that with my kids. My oldest is going to be 10 in a couple weeks. So,
Oh, wow.
he's past that halfway point, depending on what he does, of
Yeah.
being out of the house. And I've talked to other parents about this where it's like I have three kids, 9, 6, and 3, and
Yeah.
every day is a battle, getting them all ready, getting them all fed, keeping them all set, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Every day is a battle, but then they go and it's a long drawn out battle, but it goes by so quick in aggregate.
Yeah.
The years go by so quick. And I've come to this realization that you're sharing. I'm clumsy about it. I'm learning about it.
Yeah.
But you get to that point, it's like, yeah, what are you waiting for? So what is it you want to do? So what is it you want your legacy to be? Or where are you compromising? Are you
Yeah.
being honest with yourself? Are you being honest with others?
Yeah.
These podcasts that I'm putting out, these 2 series, the new one that I just launched, it stems from that.
Yeah.
When I launched it, I still worry about how it comes across, how it may look, how I sound. I worry about all those things. I have those insecurities. But what outweighs that insecurity is the regret that I'll have later if I don't do this today.
Yeah.
And that for me is enough to say, what am I waiting for? And to put this out there. And I've gained so much from learning from all of you, all of my guests, whoever they are. Like, I've gained so much, but it comes down to, you don't know whether you're going to be here tomorrow or not. Sorry to be so dark about it, but I've seen, one of my favorite soccer players in the world just died in a car accident last week.
Wow.
He got married 3 weeks ago. He's got 3 kids. He just won the championship with his club. He won the championship with his country, and now he's gone, just like that, in the blink of an eye. So
Yeah.
I subscribe to that cliche. You only live once.
Yeah.
Life passes you by in the blink of an eye. Again, like I talked about with being a coach, I need those constant reminders. Sometimes I take it for granted, but what the fuck are you waiting for?
Exactly. And it's not to induce fear, because I
Yeah,
don't think
exactly.
it's
Exactly.
it's to pull you down into this moment. It's like, just get out of the
Yes.
past, even I would say, get out of the future. Just be here now. How do you want to live this day right now? And like you said, what the fuck are you waiting for? Just do it now, because this is the moment we have right now. This is the only thing we know for sure. And why not live it the way you want? And I think that's where my frustration came from when I was young, is like, I don't want to live this way, but I had no choice because I was a kid and I was stuck in this box, But
So
yeah.
we talked about so many different things, but when you say yes to your yes, what was the moment? What was the realization where you were like, oh my God, I haven't said yes to my yes? because you've talked about high school, what it was. It didn't tap into who you were, going into yoga, loving business. But what was it that kind of showed you, listen, you're not living up to your full potential, your intuition, your gut? Was there a moment? Was there something that happened? And I apologize if you already mentioned it, that kind of made you look at yourself and say, "Hey, I'm not trusting myself enough." Because aside from the uncertainty of high school, you were telling me you were help building businesses, you were curious about this, so you jumped into that. You wanted to learn about websites and build and create these ecosystems. So I never heard any real, aside from high school where it's kind of uncertain, I didn't hear a lot of uncertainty. So where was your moment where you realized that you weren't saying yes to your yes, that you were holding yourself back?
Yeah, it was actually in my personal life, and it was the biggest leap that I've ever taken. But I didn't say yes to my yes for, well, I wouldn't say 12 years, but I was in a relationship for 12 years, and I knew at least halfway through that it was not aligned, and I was slowly suffocating, and was not living the life that I really needed and I really wanted. And I, after 12 years and many of those years suffering for a very long time, which was me not saying yes to my yes, I finally found the courage to trust myself and remove myself from that experience and move to Mexico. And that was so random, right? And I knew.
I mean, not that I'm complaining, but why Mexico?
Yeah, well, it all aligned with all kinds of different things. I had gone on a trip a few weeks before. For me, Mexico is a very important place in my life. I believe that I have a past life in Mexico. I go to Mexico and I'm like, oh my God, I'm home. These are my people. And so I had that confirmation when I went on the trip. I met someone when I was on the trip. All these things just started to align. Staying where I was just became impossible. That's what happens when you don't say yes to your yes for long enough. Things just start to crumble.
It gets to the point where you have no choice.
Like
life is giving you a choice, and then as you go, it's giving you less and less a choice until the urgency. There's no urgency. It's done.
It's done. Like the universe lights a fire under your ass, and you just got to go. And so and hopefully the goal of the book is that people don't have to wait that long. Really, that's the point.
Yeah.
And I did those. That was my most challenging moment, I would say, and leapt into this brand new life and this brand new experience, and really like not knowing the language, not knowing the culture, it was a very vulnerable moment. But that moment was the turning point in my life. Nothing that I am experiencing today would exist if I had not taken that leap. Including this book that is now coming out in Spanish this year.
Nice. How's your Spanish?
It's pretty, I wouldn't say perfect, but I'm fluent.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fluent. My partner's Mexican, so we only speak Spanish. And
very nice.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned your book that you're writing right now. Can you give some idea of what path that takes, what direction that goes?
Yeah, it's
without giving away the store or anything like that.
Yeah, this next book is about healing, and so it's all about the importance of each of us doing our healing, and how our own individual healing journey impacts the turn of events that will happen in our lives, and then how that impacts the people around us, and how we can live our fullest life and have an even deeper connection to our intuition when we heal all the stuff that is getting in the way of us living our best lives.
I think everybody should read your book and read your next book, because it's incredible how I'm just had a conversation with somebody yesterday. different people at different times, same kind of conversation. Healing from past traumas, whether it's big T, little t, whether it's a disruption, whether it's an atypical life or childhood, whatever it may be, we all have, to put it bluntly, some kind of baggage that's holding us down. So I would love for everybody just to consider what theirs might be. Again, not to pull it back and say, look, darkness, but to afford them the ability to live in a brighter life today and going forward. Because what's incredible is I've suffered from anxiety most of my life, and it's getting to the point where I realized it and started working on it, but the rest of my life was just kind of like trudging through it, putting up with it, being tolerant of it.
Yeah.
And we don't realize how exhausting that can be, what it does to our energy level, what it does to our life level.
Yeah.
So even if you don't think you have any kind of trauma, any kind of hindrance from the past that's holding you back today, you just never know.
Yeah.
Because we're just so used to programmed to move forward, to just get through, to be successful, to reach that next milestone. So that's an amazing and great insight and reminder.
Yeah, because it's not, like you said, it's not always about some big traumatic event.
Yeah.
Like, it can just be healing from conditioning of from your parents, from society, from ways in which, like you said, you were programmed to function that maybe is not aligned with who you really are. And so we all have some healing work to do. No one has a perfect path. It just doesn't exist. So yeah.
Jenn, what book has inspired you or made the biggest impact on you?
Oh my goodness, I am such a book nerd. I read so many books. But I think the one that had the biggest impact on my whole entire path, there's two actually. Can I name two?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, so
I've had people go. I say one or the book, and I've had people list like 7.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I could start a book club. So The Not So Big Life by Sarah Susenka, which is not a book that many people know about. I don't think it was that changed me when I was a teenager, young adult. And that really taught me how she's an architect, actually. So she has like the not so big house, the not so big all the things. And it really taught me that I could be the architect of my own life. And it's a fabulous book. And my other go-to is Wabi Sabi, The Japanese Wisdom of a Perfectly Imperfect Life by Beth Kempton. That one is a powerful one as well. Yeah, there's so many, but those two are, I guess, the ones that are coming to mind for me right now, that really, really impacted me.
Great, I appreciate those. And then in wrapping up, Jenn, what are you up to these days? Is there anything that I haven't asked or brought up that you'd like to speak about or share? Anything at all? The floor is yours.
Yeah, what am I up to right now? I'm up to slowing down is really what's happening. Moving into my 40s is really turning into a chapter of simplifying, slowing down, getting rid of all of the excess of everything and focusing in on what really matters in my life and in my business. I built this beautiful space and ecosystem for everything that has to do with say yes to your yes. And so we have a home for all of that. And that's really where a lot of my business is really focused around the book right now. And in my personal life is just like this slow living, slow working, being more present in my life, I guess is what is happening. And allowing myself now to just dive into some yeses that I've been wanting to say yes to for a very long time, that have nothing to do with my business. But like I was telling you, I'm on a board member of a film festival now. I've had this long time dream and passion of somehow being involved in the film industry. Have no idea why, but that's none of my business. I'm just following that nudge. And doing more things like that, I would say.
Yeah, you did mention that before we started recording, but you didn't mention how did that come about? How did you land in that, on that board?
Yeah, through a dear friend of mine who I had shared this sort of like weird nudge that I have inside that I don't know where it's coming from and why it's there. And she's on the board of this film festival. It's called Love Wins. Jared Martino is the founder of this, and he's an incredible incredible leader. Talk about a great leader. And she was like, hey, we're looking for some board members. I think you'd be amazing. And so she connected me with Jared, and it just, all of it aligned so perfectly. And so it's been nice to explore a different industry, a different part of my creativity also, and meeting some incredible artists and creatives along the way.
Oh, I can imagine. And again, we covered Jennifer's own book, Say Yes to Your Yes, How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap. Jennifer, thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Thank you. It was so good to be here.
And if there's anything I might have missed, I know there's a lot to cover. I drag my guests down tangents and rabbit holes, but if there's anything that you're curious about that I didn't ask, please let me know, and I'll reach out to Jennifer, see what kind of insights, guidance, wisdom, knowledge I can get back. In the meantime, thank you for watching, listening, and subscribing, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.